Okay, good morning. Thanks for coming. We were talking about the different brachas we say in the morning. Do me a favor, pass me that sitter over there. Okay. In the mornings, we say a series of brachos. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think there are 15 of them. All right. Now, they each have a purpose. One talks about thanking God for giving us the wherewithal, the knowledge to distinguish between day and night. One talks about thanking God for not making me a Gentile, for to have sight, for dressing, for standing up straight, and so on and so forth. Now, there was a time when we made these brachas as we actually did the action. In other words, as soon as we got up, we would thank Hashem for, giving us the ability to realize that it's daytime and we have to get up. There are many creatures that don't have that ability, mm-hmm. and they sleep, during all the time. In fact, there's somebody like that comes to shul, usually about 10 after 8. And then when we would get dressed, we would say the bracha that applies to getting dressed. When we would open our eyes, we would recite the bracha of sight and so on. But we've changed that. Now, because when we get up, we're really not in a pure state, and certainly we're worried that when a person gets up, he may touch himself in places where it's not pure, so we don't do these things until we get to shul. Okay? Some people have a custom of saying it before they get to shul. That's fine as well. Now, I just want to talk about one more bracha, and that is the bracha that we say before we learn. We thank God who chose us from all the other nations and gave us the Torah, and we thank God for this. Now, this bracha is only supposed to be made if you're actually going to learn the Torah. You can't just make the bracha and then walk away and not learn anything. The same thing, you can't just, look at an apple and make the bracha and not eat the apple. If you remember the story I told you about the little boy and the rabbi, mm-hmm. The rabbi was dying to make a bracha on the apple, but he realizes that in order to make the bracha, you have to eat the apple. So the same thing goes with Torah. So therefore, immediately after this bracha, there's a paragraph of learning, which is from the Talmud, from the Mishnah. Actually, there's 3 parts. There's part from the Torah. When I say Torah, usually it means the 5 books of Moses. Mm-hmm. Now, really, Torah is the 2 parts to the Torah. There's the written and the oral, but it's become in the vernacular of people speaking that we refer to it as the 5 books of Moses. So immediately after this bracha, we have the 3 parts of learning, and one is from the written Torah, and one is from the Mishnah, and one is from the Gemara, which commonly referred to as the Talmud. Now, I think one day maybe I'll give you a little history of how that came about. There's the Torah, mm-hmm. and then the Torah, there's commentaries on the Torah, but to read the Torah by itself is almost
impossible.
It's possible. You really don't know what it means. For example, we're going to talk a minute about the mitzvah of tzitzit. Okay, in the Torah it says you should put on tzitzit. What is tzitzit? We now know that it's strings tied a certain way, certain fabric, certain color, but all it says in the Torah is put on tzitzit. It's same with tefillin, put on tefillin. You could get 1 billion scientists and educators, and what did the Torah mean when it says you should tie you should tie a sign on your hands and another sign between your eyes. First of all, between your eyes, if you wouldn't know anything, between the eyes would mean right here. If I told you draw an X between your eyes, there's no way you would put it up here. You would put it over here. So all these things. And it says it should be on your heart. Now, what does it mean on your heart? Of course, we learned it means it should be, right, it should be opposite the heart. And that's why we put it on the arm facing the heart. So all these things are only known to us because, good morning, Steve. All these things are known to us only because of the Mishnah and the Gemara, and then there is commentaries on the Gemara, because even the Gemara itself is sometimes either ambiguous or very unclear, and we need commentaries to explain that, and we need commentaries on those commentaries, and we haven't stopped commenting ever since. There's always going to be somebody coming later who's going to explain and comment on the commentaries.
The commentary. Right.
And as Rabbi Spiro tells us right now, that I'm a commentary as well. Okay, now, when we make a bracha, for example, you just asked me what bracha to make on that. When we make a bracha, there are different brachas, especially when it comes to brachas that we make on food. There are different brachas for different food items. When you don't know which bracha to make, there is an all-inclusive bracha, and that is Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Shehakol Niya B'Dvaro. Everything came into existence because of Hashem's words. Hashem said it, so He has spoken, so it is created. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's an all-inclusive. But there are distinguished brachas for all different types of things. On fruits, there's a special bracha, borei priuetz. On vegetables, which come from the ground, we make a bracha. Thank God for creating those things which come from the ground. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaroi.
Amen.
On most liquids.
89 to go.
Excuse me?
89 to go.
89 to go. No, 99.
99, that's right.
99 brachas to go.
But
99 brachas to go on the
89
meal.
remains.
89 omains. Right. Okay, good. You remember. When you make a bracha, there are two parts, as I finished off yesterday. There are two parts to the brachas. There is the first part, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, thanking God, the creator of the world, and then the specific part which applies to that thing. You have to understand what you're saying for the first part. You have to know that when you're making that first part of the blessing where you're enunciating God's name, you have to know what you're saying. If not, don't make the bracha, or you've made it in vain. And saying a bracha in vain is a gross violation. So you have to know what those words mean, or in general knowledge what it means. If you don't know the exact literal translation, that's fine as well. You do not have to know what this last part means. So, for example, there is a bracha that we make on thunder and lightning and rainbows and earthquakes, and there's a bracha for everything. Mm-hmm. If you see a beautiful person, you make a bracha. If you see an ugly person, you make a bracha. You know, sometimes it winds up being the same person, different points in your life. When you smell something good, you make a bracha. There is no bracha when you smell something bad. Mm-hmm. But you don't necessarily have to know the meaning of the second part of the bracha. However, here's something very important. If there's an apple in front of you and a cucumber in front of you, on the apple you make the bracha for thanking God for stuff that comes from a tree. For the cucumber, that grows from the ground. Mm-hmm. If you were going to eat the apple and you made a bracha knowing that you're going to eat apple, and when you finish, I'm sorry, let's say there was an orange there. Mm-hmm. You had in mind on the apple, it does not apply to the orange. So if you had it specifically in mind for a specific fruit, you can't switch over.
Okay.
Okay? Also, there are...
Pick your words carefully.
Right. There are also, the bracha for fruits is, thank God for stuff that comes from a tree. For vegetables, is stuff that comes from the ground. If you make a bracha on a fruit, and you accidentally say the bracha for thanking God for stuff that comes from the ground, you're covered. Mm-hmm. Why?
Because a tree
comes from the ground also.
Yeah.
So it's sort of all-inclusive. The reverse is not true. You can't make a bracha on a cucumber and say, thanking God for providing you for the fruit, because it's not a fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Okay. Now, getting back to the bracha of Torah, I said that when you make a bracha on learning Torah, you should immediately follow it by learning Torah. The question arises, what if you're not learning Torah? What if you're just thinking about Torah? Now, it's not such a simple question, because in our halacha, there is a lot that's dependent on our thoughts. Like I just told you before, we have to have in mind what the meaning is. So our mind plays a vital role in our mitzvahs.
Okay.
So you would think that thinking about Torah is sufficient, and you have now fulfilled the requirement of that bracha. You made a bracha thanking Hashem for the Torah, and now you're going to think about a Torah that you learned yesterday in your mind. So that would be a false way of thinking. In order to fulfill that mitzvah of learning Torah, you actually have to learn the Torah. You have to mouth it. There are a lot of things that you don't have to mouth. In fact, there are certain things that if you just heard somebody else make the bracha, you just heard it. Mm-hmm. There is a rule. It's called shomeya ka'ona. It means if you heard it, it's as if you said it, as if you've answered that bracha. So it does not apply to learning Torah.
Isn't there also when you're thinking, sometimes we don't have control over what we think, where we think it.
Right.
Like, aren't there certain places where we can't even think about
Exactly. It? In those places that we're not allowed to learn Torah, we can't even think about Torah.
Like when you're in the bathroom.
Like we're in the bathroom, or other places where, you're in a place where it's not pure.
Right.
There are exceptions to that rule. For example, you're not allowed to learn in front of a dead person.
Makes sense.
Now, why would you not be allowed to learn in front of a dead person?
That person's not pure.
Okay.
And they can't benefit from...
It's also, but let's assume... that's a good answer, by the way. You're also not supposed to make fun of him. You're sort of making fun of him. You're dead, you can't do any more mitzvahs, you can't learn anymore, so I'm all of a sudden going to be this big holy man and I'm going to start learning. So you can't learn in front of him. But you are allowed to think of learning, because that's not making fun of him. It's not blatantly, saying, hey, you can't do what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just for a minute I want to talk about, I deliberately skipped it, but I want to just cover very little bit of it, and that is the halachas of tzitzit. Okay, now I know not everybody wears it all day, but I'm going to just give you the very basics. Let me just start off to say that it's a good thing to wear every day. Now, a lot of times people, because of their work or their surroundings or for whatever other extenuating circumstances, they don't wear it. Okay? The rules of wearing tzitzit are really... you can find loopholes. With every law that we have, we can find loopholes. And sometimes the Torah gives us those loopholes. And it tells you, it makes explains, when it talks about a certain mitzvah, it gives it to you in a certain way. For example, we have to we have to tithe when from our crop. We have to give 10%. Not when it's on the field. When you bring it into your house. Once it's in your house, you brought in 100 bushels of wheat. You have to take 10 and give it. It's called meiser. You have to give it now. This is if you brought it in through the door. Mm-hmm. What if you brought it in through the chimney? You don't have to give, because the Torah tells you when you bring it into your house, the Torah is giving you a message. If you bring it in the normal way, but if you brought it in through the window or through a chimney or through you dug a hole in the basement or something and you brought it up, you don't have to give it. So you can find a loophole. So technically, nobody would ever have to give tithe.
I mean, obviously, like you said before, the Torah has some unexplainable reasons.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure why. The same thing with tzitzit. You're required to wear tzitzit when you wear a garment that has 4 corners. So, I don't believe that there are garments today that actually come already manufactured with 4 corners. I don't think they make it anymore.
Maybe a costume shop, but that's about it.
Well, yeah, but so just want to keep an eye. So what we do is we go out and we buy a talis or a small one that we wear under our shirts, and now we make it 4-cornered, and we put on tzitzit. We do that for many reasons. First of all, every second that you're wearing it, you're doing a mitzvah. So you can spend a whole day fasting on Yom Kippur, and you got 1 mitzvah. Or you can wear tzitzit all day, and for every second you get a mitzvah. So it's like a no-brainer for me. I tell that to my kids all the time. Shira, can you get me a glass of water? And she brings them. I say, you just fasted on Yom Kippur. You just did a whole fast. And the Torah says, honor thy father and the mother. You listened to me. You just did an amazing mitzvah. Not to make light of it. I mean, it's one of the few mitzvahs where the Torah guarantees you a reward. It tells you, you're going to honor your father and mother. You're going to live longer. It's like guaranteed. What? Go ask any person who's sick in the hospital. What would you give to live longer? It's a no-brainer as well. I'm just going to finish off with a story about tzitzit. It's a very famous story. It's brought down in the Gemara. It says there was this person who had an insatiable sexual appetite. And don't look at me that way. And he had a goal. What? Yeah, he had a goal. He wanted to have relations with all the best prostitutes in the world. Mm-hmm. And he heard that in this place there's this unbelievable, beautiful woman, and she's known to be the best. So he traveled for I don't know how long. He crossed oceans, he climbed mountains, and that's the way it says in the Gemara, until he finally got to her. And then he found her, and she says, okay, come up to my boudoir. And he had to go up like into an attic where she had her place. And he was going up, and all of a sudden he's going up the ladder, and he can't go. He's stuck. And he realizes, and he looks around, and he sees that his tzitzit got stuck in the one of the rungs of the ladder. And he tried to pull it to set himself free. And then as he was doing that, he realized, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm wearing tzitzit. I'm supposed to be a good Jew. Like how can I be doing this? And he broke down, and he ran away from there. And he started crying miserably. He sat himself down between 2 mountains. And he started crying on top of his voice. And from that agony, he passed away. And the Gemara says in that in that moment he bought himself eternal life in the world to come, from such a high degree of repentance.
Wow.
Okay, thanks for coming. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.